It's about the power of Google Apps Script and Cloud SQL. We have James Ferreira and Topher Kalapi from Ignite Synergy. These guys are Google developer gurus. So this is going to be a pretty exciting session for everybody. So I'm going to turn it over to them, and we'll just jump right into this thing.
All right, yeah. Hey, guys. Well, welcome to the Ignite Synergy office. Thanks a lot, Scott, for that intro. Um, we're really happy to be here. It's really great. Anytime we have a chance to talk about anything that has to do with Google Apps or automation, we're really excited to do it. So we're really thank you for the opportunity to be able to talk to you today. Let me tell you a little bit about our business. Let's go to the next slide there. So we're Ignite Synergy. We're a business that what we do is we work on the Google platform and we build applications. So something we found that, now that we've moved kind of into the API era of computing, most of the things that you're doing can be tied together. So your data doesn't have to be all in one place or around some specific kind of software. And what we find is people want to put whatever it is their software is and put it together in a package that's really truly theirs instead of having to try to fit into someone else's software box. If you were to think about that 10 years ago, the only software you bought came out of a box, and you had to mold your business around that certain kind of software. And so we really kind of changed that. Now what we do is we work with businesses all over the world, and we create whatever kind of customization they need. So plugging things together, we innovate, we guide, we carry, and we educate. So those are the different things that we do as a business, and it's really been a pleasure to work with these businesses around the world. So let's go to the agenda here. We want to try to get through a lot of this pretty quickly. What we're going to do today is we're going to do some live building of a web app that's connected to a Cloud SQL database. So Topher's going to do a lot of the driving on that, and I'm going to do some narrating as he's going along. And so what we'll do is we're going to go over a slide next here that is going to talk about kind of the architecture that we're looking at. That's one of the big things that I do. So when if you're looking to get into putting Google anything together, when linking that to something outside, whether it be Salesforce or QuickBooks or anything like that, I help with the architecture of what Google does. Part of one of the jobs I have is being a Google developer expert, and that's in the area of Drive and AppScript. And so I help businesses figure out what those connections are and do a lot of consulting in that area. And then we, of course, build apps for businesses too, or we just do the training that, so they can figure out how to do that on their own. So what we're going to do is we'll set up a Cloud SQL database, we'll copy some templates, we'll add the right IDs and everything to scripts, and we'll get it up and running, and we're going to show you how just in a matter of about 10-15 minutes here, we're going to have a working web app, and so it's going to be good. You do want to stay tuned till the end. We got something really awesome we're going to give away that we hope you'll be excited about. So I think we'll jump into looking at the architecture. Yep. So, go to the next slide there. And okay, so here's kind of the layout. So because this is all about automation, and that's really what Google Apps Script is about. Something I guess I didn't mention was I've written 2 O'Reilly books about Google Apps Script. I've been part of that team working with Google since it began. Really, I have a lot of knowledge in that area, and just I really enjoy working on the platform itself. So what we'll use is we're going to use a spreadsheet to do configurations, the configurations of the app itself. That's going to feed into the app script. We're going to set up a Cloud SQL database, which is one of those things where we see a lot of data going into spreadsheets, and sometimes spreadsheets aren't really the best place for that data. So if you've got more than like 3,000 rows of data, spreadsheet was really meant for people to look at, not for storing data. But we're seeing, because Google is really awesome and Google spreadsheets can hold millions of cells of data, they're getting used like a traditional database would be used. And while that's sometimes good, it's not always the best solution. If you've got 3,000 or more rows, they can get really slow. Not necessarily a spreadsheet, but accessing data and building apps off of them, you really want to start looking at moving some of that to Cloud SQL. But that's really scary for a lot of people because they're like, well, how does that work? How am I going to set up a database in the cloud? Isn't that really sophisticated and complicated? And we're going to show you how it's like not. So we're going to kind of remove that barrier today for you so that you can set up your own Cloud SQL database very quickly, and then, of course, with these templates, you can have an app up and running. The last piece is using the HTML service from AppScript to actually display an application that's going to allow us to enter data records directly into the database and work on that. So I think we're ready to jump into sharing the screen and get started with setting up a Cloud SQL database. All right. So the first place you're going to want to go is to console.google.com, where you'll find you can create a project there. That's kind of the first step if you've never been here before, is go ahead and create a project, and then you'll have to add your credit card. And so you won't be charged anything, especially if it's your first time. You're going to get some free, I think you get like $300 free to start off, and testing out the services and those kinds of things. The credit card's just to secure it after that if you do spend all the money, that kind of thing. We're going to show you how to set up a database that costs you literally pennies a month, so at the level that we're going to set. So you click the Create Instance here in the Cloud SQL part, and so we're going to give it a name. Call it Generator. That looks like a pretty good one. And yeah, it's going to be all lowercase. And then we're going to set the tier level here to DO. And the reason why is it's less RAM. We're only just going to use this for a few minutes. If you were wanting to scale up, and this can make a huge difference in the performance of your app. We've had some apps that we're running on DO level, and we're doing a lot of transactions through the database, and we skipped them up to D4, that kind of thing, and we saw up to 80% reductions in the call times. It's amazing to watch how fast, if you give it enough juice, how fast these databases can work. So we'll click Create on that. Now it takes a few minutes to create the database, so what we're going to do is we already created one just to skip this waiting for it so that you guys don't have to wait. We don't want to just sit there and watch a spinning icon. We don't want me to run out of things to say. So the first place we want to go here is we're going to go to the Access Control screen in your Cloud SQL database. And what you're going to have to do here is in order for AppScript to be able to access your Cloud SQL database, you have to enter in the AppScript IPs, so where AppScript is going to be making its calls from. And to find those, you can type in, just do a Google search for AppScript JDBC. And this is probably the first page you'll come up with, and it's going to give you the instructions there. It's going to show you those IPs and how and you just enter them one at a time into the console. Let's get back over to the console there. And so down at the bottom, it just gives you this little add network. You just type in the network. You don't have to give it a name, but you just put in those different IPs, and you'll be good to go. And that'll allow it to connect. So the next piece we need to do is to create an actual database. So we created an instance, but now inside the instance we need a database. So we'll just go to Databases, click New Database, give it a name. Let's call this one Main. And that's it. That's really all there is to setting up Cloud SQL for AppScript. There's no steps. It takes just a couple minutes. And now, so let's go over, and we're going to need to do a few things in AppScript itself to get it ready to accept or to connect to the database. So one of the things we're going to need is we're going to need this instance connection right here. So it's found under the General tab, and you can grab that, and then we'll move over to our spreadsheet. So remember we were just talking about in our architecture diagram, we were saying the spreadsheet is going to be our configuration for doing all this stuff. And so, and if you just send us an email at info@ignitesynergy.com, and we can share these templates with you and even give you a walkthrough on how to use them. If you dive in deeper, we can do some training and some learning on how AppScript is working in the back end for that. So for this, one of the things we're going to have to do is we need to actually connect the AppScript to the database. So we're going to click on Tools, And this is where you're going to actually find your script editor. So it's right there under script editor, and open up. This is an app script. Now we've already written the code for you, so you won't have to do those, and all you're going to have to do is just install some of the variable names. So for instance, the connection name, just stick that in there that came from the Cloud Console. And then we had named this database main. So that's it. That's really all you have to do to connect this piece to the database. And we'll just save that. And then we also have another script that we're going to use to display the UI. So let's just pop that open and also put the instance name in there while we're working on this stuff. Awesome. And I think on that we also need to, one other thing we're going to do when we're doing this UI, the UI is actually going to build off of the configuration of the spreadsheet. So we do have to grab the spreadsheet ID here, and it's found up in the URL, and it's after the d/, and it's that long, silly looking numbers and letters up to the /edit. So we'll just grab that, and we'll go ahead and stick that into the code.js here, where we've got the data model spreadsheet ID. And so we actually built these templates here, especially for this webinar, so that we can do this model, just show you how automated you can make this whole process. So I think we're ready to head back over to the spreadsheet. Okay, so how the spreadsheet works and how we do our configurations. Topher's going to go ahead and copy the sheet down at the bottom, just make a duplicate of it, and then give it a name of the table that he's going to want to create in his database that he's made in the Cloud Console. All right. So now he's going to go ahead and create the IDs and that kind of thing. So while he's doing that, I'll talk a little bit about kind of how this process is working. So there's a couple different things we could do. We could connect to an existing Cloud SQL database directly here, but we could also connect to tons of different information. We could be connecting to it could be an on-site database that you have, or it could be something like Salesforce. There's really no limit to the APIs you can connect to. If you can authenticate to it, as long as it's connected to the internet, then AppScript can connect to that, do its authentication, and we can start accessing that data. There's a few different connectors we build. One of them will allow you to connect to spreadsheet data if you want to use a spreadsheet as a database. So that's another area we can work with. So what Topher's doing here is he's adding in the different variables. So we've got a couple here in this. I'm not sure. Well, but that should still work. It's we had colored the headers a different color, and we were just noting that they weren't the same color, so we were wondering why that was. So these different fields will set up the different form values, the different text boxes that we're going to need, and it's also going to allow us to create the table in the database based on this information here. So we'll get that done. So one of the things we see a lot of is AppScript connecting to spreadsheets and doing all kinds of things. So you can modify anything in a spreadsheet, bring data in from another spreadsheet, and you can create UIs within the spreadsheets. So a lot of the things that we've done, we worked with businesses all over the world. SurveyMonkey is one of them. OpenClipArt, where we've created add-ons that go into there. And if you notice, there's a menu item up there at the top called add-ons. And when you do click on that, you're able to use third-party software. We create a lot of that for other businesses, and then we also create a lot of the apps, or a lot of the add-ons in the add-on store. So about 10% of those are add-ons that we've created. User base of about just a little over 3 million people for those apps. So really great, awesome business applications. You can produce an add-on that is just for your business, and nobody in the public sees it. So you can automate just about anything you want in a sidebar or in a dialog that pops up in the middle of a spreadsheet document or form. So it's really a great system. So it looks like we've got all of the fields typed in now. So we're going to do a quick check here. Look good? Yeah. We've made a change, and we're going to move these columns over just a little bit here. There they go. They got away. Escape. Escape. All right, go around. There we go. All right, sorry, we had to move our columns back to where they belong. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to, if you notice, we've got a spreadsheet. I guess I could explain this really quickly. So in the yellow are the values we're going to use in building the form. In the green, what we've got are the table. We're going to put a table out on the page as well. In the pink color are the fields that we're going to create in the SQL database. So you could use a SQL database that already exists, and then you would just have to use the SQL field names that you have now. But since we just created this instance, and there's no tables in the database, we're going to create those right from this app script. So we created a menu item, or you can just click on that menu item and then select the create table. And this is going to go right into the database and create that table with the field names and the SQL types. So it's just that easy. So database is populated, ready to go. Now all we have to do is put some data into it. So in order to get a UI working in AppScript, we go up to the Publish menu and deploy as web app. And then we click on the latest code. And there it is. We've generated a UI, and we can click on Clients, which is our database, and there's our fields. This is all being generated off that spreadsheet that we were just looking at through the AppScript. And so let's enter a couple of names in there and make sure our database is truly doing what it's supposed to be doing and working. We'll run through that. And voila, data in the database. So we know that the data is actually getting there because the way we designed this script is that the table is refreshed from the database every time you enter new records. So let's add one more in here, click the plus key, and there we go. So extremely fast, extremely easy, customizable, really no coding involved, just a few places where you need to enter some ideas. Of course, we can change the data, just update it by clicking on a record, and then making those changes in the database. So voila. All right. So that's really kind of in a nutshell how easy it is to automate with AppScript. Now, of course, we did do a lot of code writing, and what I would recommend if you're wanting to get into doing a lot of AppScript, if you're wanting to learn how to do a lot of this automation yourself and build these scripts, the first thing you have to learn is JavaScript. JavaScript is a really common language. It's very easy to pick up and learn. Of course, we're using Material and Bootstrap and some jQuery here on the front end to do some of that stuff. But all the back-end stuff that you're going to find that you're doing in spreadsheets is all written in JavaScript. You actually want to pop the script open there. This one? Yeah, and you can see it's just standard JavaScript language, but built into a UI. All app scripts are saved in Drive, so they'll fall under any kind of SLA policies you have that has to do with or data protection policies that are already working on Drive for you. So your scripts can either show up as a file in Drive, or you can have them embedded inside of spreadsheets and documents and forms. So I think that's it. Pretty good app. Not bad for. We have about 15 minutes there. That's great. So Scott, do you want to move over to some Q&A?
Yeah, I'm going to launch the poll really quick. So if you're watching in the background, or if you have a second to answer this poll, that would be awesome. There we go. And I guess while this poll is up, we can go ahead and get to some of the questions. James, what's the best use case you've seen for AppScript, Cloud SQL, both together?
Well, we have an app that we built it's pretty massive. It does, on average, 50,000 calls a day to Cloud SQL, all front-ended in AppScript. It's pretty amazing. It also creates drive files, somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 to 2,000 new files every day that are customized PDFs that come from the AppScript UI. So it's a massive deployment. It's really a lot of fun to keep running, and it's quick. AppScript has come a long way.
Well, awesome. What do you think about these poll results? So on a scale of 1 to 5, how extensively does your organization use Google Apps Script? Looks like most people in the audience don't use it at all.
Don't use it at all, yeah. It was just a lot of people, that's one of the things that we find really interesting, is a lot of people think it's maybe just like macros was for Excel, and so they don't really know that it exists, or it's just something to support on a switch. But what we're finding is that businesses are building entire applications, like their frontline application, directly customer-facing, are built on AppScript. It's amazing. It's quick to spin up an app, like you can see where we basically just created a form that allows us to the database. So I mean, one case for this would be, you don't have a lot of IT resources, and you've got a bunch of databases already running, and people want specialized UIs to enter in certain information into those databases. You don't want to give them access to some kind of a desktop-based SQL connection. You want them to be in a box, right? So you want to just control what they can do and give them a small UI to do it, and AppScript allows you to do that. So simple things like automating your help desk. If people want to change something, like go ahead and change their aliases or their name, for big organizations. Instead of having IT do that, you can provide an AppScript that authenticates the user and only gives them access to change their name, even though it's running under an admin permission. So there's a lot of different applications. The applications are endless. It's pretty amazing. So it'd be great to see more businesses using it, for sure. I think that just awareness.
So we have a lot of people asking whether or not they'll receive a copy of the session. We will be sending out recordings after the event. I know you mentioned that you wanted to send people actual templates, correct?
Yeah, we can. If you just give us send us an email, info@ignitesynergy.com. We'll respond right away. We'll send you templates and some instructions, different steps.
Okay.
Of course, if you just want a quick walkthrough, we can either use this session or we can help you out live. That's the awesome thing about Google, is collaborate.
Very true. All right, so we have a long one here. For an enterprise to use Cloud SQL versus Sheets, we are faced with challenges in the support agreement area. Google will support spreadsheets, but there is a question as to whether the data processing amendments apply to the data stored in the cloud outside the scope of their supported enterprise services. How do you navigate around that?
Well, we've been running Cloud SQL database for, I guess it's two different areas. Do you want them to stick to something? They do have SLAs that they provide with Cloud SQL. We've been running Cloud SQL databases since I started with the service, and we have never lost a record. We've never had one fail. It's never been down, and it's never lost a record. And that's been in the last 4 years of using them heavily. They're amazing. It's hard to believe that a service could be that reliable. We've never restored one. Well, we restored one time, and they have daily backups that you can set. You can increase that one if you need to. But we restored one time because of a user error where they deleted all the data in the database on purpose. Well, anyway, and we restored one. That's the only time we've ever clicked the restore button. It's just never been a necessity. It's probably one of the most reliable services I've ever used.
Okay, we got a lot of questions coming in, so I'm trying to sort through these. One says smile Topher, so make sure to show us those pearly whites. Let's see.
Sometimes I do enough.
Are there any examples for connecting with Salesforce to pull data in to use the UI of Google Apps Script?
Yeah, we've actually had some pretty interesting ones that we've done with some customers that deal with nationwide data where they need a lot of convenience stores to synchronize their stock with a huge Salesforce instance. But they're not Salesforce kind of people. They're kind of go down the checklist and check boxes on the list kind of people, or are just the numbers. And so for that, we imported the right data into a spreadsheet. They're able to use their laptop and go check the stock on their shelves and then just adjust the spreadsheet and resynchronize that data. Really nice integrations, very easy to do. Just a matter of adding the right connection.
Okay. Is it possible to connect to another database outside of the Google domain, i.e. Amazon RDS?
Absolutely. We actually do that often. A lot of our deployments will have several different integration points. So it might be on AWS. It might be on working with several different, because that's the one thing about cloud platform is you don't have just Cloud SQL. You've got cloud storage. You might have compute engines running. Sometimes we'll run apps on AWS and then use that to talk to them. So there's really that's the thing that's so great about the API era, right? So if they provide an API for it and it's publicly accessible through the internet, then we can connect to it, authenticate to it, and start sharing data. Even banks.
Let's see here.
And the other thing is, if your database, it doesn't. I can say for sure that Microsoft databases, Oracle, MySQL, those are all supported if they support the JDBC connector. So those are really, really easy to talk to. It's just a matter of authenticating to them, putting in the authorization of the IP, and you're good to go.
Shauna asks, are there any available tutorials online? So I guess another way we could phrase this is where are the best places to go to find educational resources for Google Apps Script?
The best place is script.google.com. So Apps Script. There's a lot of really great documentation there. There's some tutorials on the Apps Script website. If you check out O'Reilly Books, you'll find that I've written 2 books on Google Apps Script. You just Google me and Google Apps Script and you'll find the books. And then there's been a couple other books written under a different publisher in Europe that are also really great. So there should be reading material that should be out there. YouTube's really great too. Put a couple of videos out there, step-by-step stuff on YouTube. We're looking at doing some retraining series and things like that would also help video training tutorials.
Awesome. What are the main limitations that you have found when it comes to Google Apps development?
Time. One of the problems that we do have is on the server side of Apps Script, you can only run script for 5 minutes. Whatever you have to do in 5 minutes. And that can be a little bit frustrating. What we do in a lot of cases, the client-side code, stuff that's running in your browser, can run for as long as you want. So a lot of times we'll develop really crappy ways of doing that, where it's just running in the browser on your side and then sending stuff that's processed within the 5-minute period. There's also a way to set some triggers and things like that. That's been one of the biggest areas that we still kind of struggle with is how long a script can run.
Topher, if you can go to the data model sheet, in the top nav there was a extra menu item that said SQL setup. Is that one of the scripts that you guys are going to send out? And we can actually send this out, these templates out with the recordings.
Yeah, those are in.
This is the.
Oh no, go ahead and show.
Yeah, this is based in the code. The code is what actually adds the SQL setup menu item. So on most spreadsheets that you open, it'll stop at help, but anyone's past that will be included in the app script, the editor.
But if you see there, let's go ahead and highlight that on function.
Okay.
So in this on open function is where you're getting the spreadsheet and then you're adding in the different menu items. And then when you click those buttons, you can run any kind of function in the app script. So it allows you to completely customize. If you just want to add menu items to a spreadsheet, you can completely customize the whole process, add workflows to a spreadsheet. Anything that we can do anywhere in AppScript can be done from those menu items, launching dialogues. It's pretty cool.
Okay, we have one last question we can take from Chad. It says, please clarify, describe an example of a script that will run for a longer period of time.
Right, so if you were doing some kind of intensive data processing, like you got a bunch of information, a bunch of files that you needed to create in Drive, and it was based on a list. So if you have, say, 1,000 rows of data in your spreadsheet that are names of documents you want to create in Google Drive, you would have to complete that task of completing each of those documents, creating each of those documents within 5 minutes.
Okay, and Eric actually asked, run another poll on how many will start to use Google Apps Script after this session, and we don't have a poll set up exactly for that question, but we have one that is pretty similar. So I just want to launch this at the very end, and we'll see what everybody thinks. So if you can take a second to answer that. There we go. Let's go ahead and share the results. So it's pretty much the exact opposite of the first poll that we took. So pretty interesting.
Well, I mean, please just contact us. I'd be happy to talk to anybody that wants to learn more about this or needs some correction. That's part of what I do as a Google Developer Expert is to do classes, just raise the awareness of what you can do on Google. It's a great platform that can allow you to build the applications that are right for your business without having to leave the Google ecosystem. You don't have to go buy somebody else's software. You can just build your own right into what you're already using. Really the way I think the future technologies.
All right. Well, I think that rounds things out. So thank you very much, James and Topher. I really appreciate it. This was obviously a really amazing session. We probably got about 40 questions in here, so didn't get to them all. But I know James is going to be doing some guest posts for the Better Cloud Monitor, so I'm sure he'll be able to address some of those on there as well. So that's the last session for Cloud IT Live today. But we have some great sessions coming up tomorrow. At 11 a.m. we have the first session of day 2 called Taking Control, the Importance and Possibilities of Automated User Lifecycle Management. That's going to be a really great session. We have Nate Collum, who is our Senior Product Manager for Automation, leading that session. And the dude is just like he's high energy, so he's going to bring it tomorrow, so that'll be really fun. So looking forward to that, and we will see all of you guys back here tomorrow. Thank you.